finally getting around to reviewing the album Twinsman. I know I promised this board a while ago, but it wasn't until earlier this year that I got a hold of it. But then a string of things happened where I just couldn't get the board out. Hopefully, it was worth the wait. I know for me, it was definitely worth the wait because I was so curious about it. Now, the version I'm on today is the Varial version, and unfortunately, Varial is no longer in business. So this option isn't available to you, unless you can find it used or maybe there's some floating around. So a quick note about the contours of the board. It is basically a single, and then more towards about the 2/3 mark, closer to the tail, it starts to turn into a double, and the double is basically within the single, and then a V out the back. And the V starts right around where the bump is. Also, the V is very pronounced, so it does make it very easy, and you can feel it when you're stepping way back, how easily it rolls from rail to rail. So it looks like it has a low to medium entry rocker and a medium exit rocker. However, the exit rocker starts a little further up on the board than some of my other boards. And the tip of the tail seems to be elevated a little higher than most of my other boards. And here's a comparison between the mashup and the Twinsman, and both are 5/4. So now something that you might not see from pictures or from video is how this board has a very flat deck. Left to right, it's flat, almost all the way to the rail, and then there's a steep drop off, almost like a step, although you can't really see a step. So basically the board has a lot of buoyancy, and I venture to think that the volume on this is probably more than the stated volume of 27.7. So between the hidden volume and the concaves, this board is an excellent groveler. Easy to paddle into waves and can make most flat sections. On this particular day, there was a lot of bump in the water. It was super high tide. It was backwashy. So it made it challenging, but the board handled it very well. And on this particular wave, it's rather large compared to the rest of the waves of this day, but it just showed how easy it was to handle and project down the line, even though the wave is super soft. And when a situation presented itself, it was really easy to do maneuvers. And I will admit, as with most twins, I'm a little hesitant to try to push too hard. Although the times that I did, the board handled it super well. I know this comparison will come up, which is better, the Great White Twin or let's say the Twinsman. Now, at the same leaders, the Great White Twin is about 3 inches longer. And so a lot of that volume is kind of distributed throughout the rail line. What I noticed is that the Great White Twin is more precise. Like you can do really hard maneuvers. Hard is probably not the word, like snappy maneuvers. Whereas the Twinsman, for me, felt like everything was kind of rounded. And I wasn't getting like the same amount of spray on my normal hits as I would on a different board. But all in all, the board lives up to its reputation. It basically does everything really well. As an example here, I get a nice little check turn underneath the hook. So now I think this board is probably best suited for large open face waves. I would love to try this at Sano, the point, which is the left break at Sano. It just seems to me that wave kind of matches this board. So at some point I'll get it out there. Also church. One thing I do want to mention about this board is that, typically it's really difficult to go backside on a twin. However, this board was super easy. I feel like it almost made my backhand better, at least on some maneuvers. Now, I remember Cale Brock saying that you have to surf this board at 80%, and there is truth to that. Because of the twin fin and the way it's designed, it doesn't have as much hold as, let's say, a thruster or a 2+1, but it's like this weird thing where it's like a millisecond going into the maneuver. It's just that absence of that trailer fin makes this board somewhat slippery if you push too hard. And most of that happens above the lip. With something like a carve or a lathe back, I'm pretty sure you can put 100% into it. I'm not very good at them, so I can't really validate that. So here I pushed as hard as I could, but just underneath the lip. Pretty ugly turn though. So initially when I put the traction pad on, I thought I put it too far forward. But after having surfed it, I realized that when I step back on the kick now, the board seems to get a little too loose. So I almost feel like board, you got to surf it a little bit more forward on the back foot. You don't have to go far as back. Maybe because of that bump and that kind of steep angle, it pivots so well. So what I'm getting at is, unlike a thruster, don't put the traction pad as far back as possible. Just eyeball it, look at it from the profile, and just place it where you're not too far behind the fins. I think I'm going to end the video here. The one thing I will say about this board is I had a lot of fun, and I think the beauty of it is I don't think I was maxing out my own skill level. So meaning if I surf it more in different conditions, I'm gonna love it even more. Oh, and here's one last thing. My friend and I almost collided because we weren't communicating. I thought I was gonna do an off the lip behind him and he was just gonna take off. But he saw me and then I think decided to bail, and then it became a really close call. I think I would have split my head open if the board had hit me. Surprisingly, there was no damage on the Twinsman, although my friend's board wasn't looking too good. Please, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and until the next one.